Prologue. The wolf crept silently through the bush to ensure he did not startle his prey. The sound of their blood pumping was a thump, thump of temptation. His mouth filled with saliva as he inhaled the scent of their fear that had been steadily increasing the further they ventured into the wilderness. The familiar pangs of hunger twinged his empty stomach. It had been a long time since he had tasted anything other than rabbit or deer. Bushes snagged on his long, thick fur as he moved within his hiding spot. He froze, and forced his breathing to become low and inaudible as they walked right past him. In doing so, he was able to remain undetected. He waited patiently. Waiting was familiar to him. He knew the time would come. Eventually they would drop their guard, and then he would strike. One of them stopped, waiting for their companion to catch up. This was his moment. He leapt from the bushes, raced to his target, and sunk sharp teeth into flesh. The blood tasted so sweet as it flowed freely into his mouth. He couldn't stop himself, consumed by animalistic desires and need to feed. He drank the blood deeply, ripping its skin and muscle until there was nothing left but empty bones. He paid no heed to the other victim running off in the opposite direction. He wasn't bothered. One was enough for now. Human, he mused. There's nothing like it.
Chapter 1. Northcrest was a small town in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by miles of forest. At least that's what an internet searcher told Hannah when she'd looked it up. The town was so small that she'd had to crawl the depths of the search engine to find anything even remotely related to where she would soon be living. The bus had dropped her over 6 miles outside of town. Her feet ached from walking, begging her to stop with each step she took. She should have taken a cab, wished that her bank balance would have allowed it. Hannah's suitcase rattled on the uneven pavement, breaking through the otherwise silent, winding road. Not a single vehicle had passed her. Resorting to hitchhiking was something she'd considered a few miles back, if only she'd seen someone to actually flag down. As the hot summer sun beat down on her, she was glad she'd at least had the forethought to tie her long, brown hair back into a ponytail. Although nothing was stopping the beads of sweat from forming on her skin, she knew she was getting close when the buildings started appearing after hours of travelling along open roads with no sidewalk, and nothing but trees as far as the eye could see. She trudged forward, her muscles burning from overexertion, silently willing her legs to carry her for just a short while longer. When the lines of trees finally broke, and she saw the town's welcome sign, she could have cried. The main road which led to the centre of town seemed endless, but at least there were sidewalks now, and Hannah could get out of the road. Buildings lined either side of the strip of concrete that appeared to be the only way in or out of Northcrest. Local shops hummed with the sound of residents greeting each other warmly, chatting and laughing. Occasionally a shop's bell would chime to indicate someone entering or exiting. Hannah's dry mouth screamed at her for some kind of refreshment as she passed a small cafe. A few people were sat at tables outside the front, sipping drinks contained in glasses misted over with condensation. Hannah licked her lips. Exhausted and aching, she desperately wanted to stop and drink something, but she wasn't sure she'd ever be able to stand back up again, and she was almost there. At least she hoped she was. With more willpower and self-control than she thought she had, she pressed on. In the distance, the town hall stood large and proud, its huge white pillars making the air seem denser than it actually was. Beyond the town hall and round the corner was where most of the residents lived. Some folks lived out of town in the forest, in much bigger houses. Here the houses were condensed and squished together to make room for the ridiculously large fountain that laid in the centre of town, and an even bigger museum off to the side. Each house, that was so close to the next they could be touching, had its own picture-perfect front lawn, bright green, lush and decorated with bushes, trees and flower beds. The houses were made from large grey stones and had matching mahogany doors and windows. It should have been creepy how similar they were, but in a strange way it suited such an unusual town. Hannah stopped walking to check the piece of paper that she had shoved in her back pocket. Glancing at each house's black iron numbering, she unfurled the rumpled note and checked the address she had scrawled there. When she found the house that matched the number written on the paper, she shoved it into her pocket. Standing at the edge of the property, where the lawn and picket fence met the sidewalk, she looked up at the house. This was where she was going to live.